You spent decades trading your time for money. You saved diligently. You invested, and you built a nest egg that looks pretty substantial. You hit that magic seven-figure number. But what if that's not enough? What if the retirement dream you've been working toward is built on a foundation of myths and old-school advice? We're about to follow a 60-year-old man we'll call David, who has a $1.2 million nest egg and whose dream of an early retirement is about to hit a brick wall. This isn't a story about a stock market crash or a bad investment. It's about the shocking realities that can blindside millions of retirees. The brutal cost of healthcare, the hidden bite of taxes, and the huge impact of where you choose to live. His story will show us if a seven-figure retirement is still realistic in today's world. Is $1.2 million enough to leave the workforce at 60 and never look back? Or is it a financial illusion that shatters the moment you hand in your notice? The answers might surprise you, and they could change how you think about your own retirement. Let's break down the real numbers, the hard choices, and the untold story of what it truly takes to retire early. Let's meet the subject of our case study. We'll call him David. He's 60 years old and has played by all the rules. For 35 years, he's been a dedicated employee, climbing the ladder to a senior management position. He's a responsible planner who did everything he was told. He maxed out his 401k, got the company match, and invested in a mix of stocks and bonds. Today, David is looking at a $1.2 million nest egg. Most of it, about $1 million, is in his tax-deferred 401k, with another $200,000 in a regular brokerage account. His house is paid off, his kids are on their own, and his current salary is a comfortable $100,000 a year. David isn't dreaming of yachts or fancy city penthouses. His dream is simpler. He just wants his time back. He wants to swap 60-hour work weeks for mornings at his workshop, afternoons on the golf course, and the freedom to visit his grandkids without asking for time off. He wants a life without financial stress, where he can finally enjoy the rewards of his hard work. In his head, the math seems simple. He's heard financial experts talk about the 4% rule. It's a common guideline that says you can safely withdraw 4% of your portfolio in your first year of retirement. Then adjust for inflation, and your money should last for 30 years. For David, this feels like the finish line. He pulls out a calculator. 4% of $1.2 million is $48,000 a year. That's $4,000 a month. With no mortgage, it sounds pretty great. It sounds like freedom. He imagines walking into his boss's office confident and ready to start his next chapter. He believes he's made it. With $1.2 million in the bank, he feels secure and prepared to retire. But what David is about to find out is that the retirement map he's been using is dangerously out of date. The simple math he was counting on is about to be challenged by a much more complicated and sobering reality. David's confidence starts with that $48,000 a year figure from the 4% rule. But this is where the dream gets its first reality check. Let's put his plan through a quick stress test. The first shock comes when you compare this new income to his old one. David has been living on a $100,000 salary. Financial planners usually say you'll need around 70 to 80% of your pre-retirement income to maintain your lifestyle. For David, 80% of his old income is $80,000 a year. Suddenly, the gap is obvious. His plan, based on that famous 4% rule, gives him $48,000 a year. The lifestyle he wants to keep costs closer to $80,000. That's a $32,000 annual shortfall. Right away, before we even get into the messy details, his plan is already in trouble. The $4,000 a month he thought was a comfortable safety net is actually a tight ceiling, and it's already starting to crack. But this income gap is just the beginning. The real problem lies in the big three expenses that his simple math completely ignored. These are the silent killers of retirement dreams. First, taxes. That $1.2 million portfolio, about $1 million of it is in a traditional 401k. That means every dollar he withdraws is taxed as ordinary income, just like his paycheck was. So that $48,000 withdrawal isn't really $48,000. Depending on his state and federal tax bracket, he could easily lose 15 to 20% of it right off the top. His $4,000 a month instantly shrinks to maybe $3,400. That shortfall just got even bigger. Second, and maybe the most terrifying variable, is healthcare. David is 60. He's 5 years away from being eligible for Medicare. In retirement planning, this 5-year window is often called the danger zone. Without a company health plan, he's on his own. As we'll see, the cost for this can be staggering. And third, there's the slow poison of inflation. The 4% rule was designed to account for inflation, but it's no guarantee, especially over a 30-year retirement. The $48,000 that feels tight today will feel suffocating in 20 years when the cost of everything has potentially doubled. When we run these numbers through a basic financial simulation, the outlook is grim. The probability of David's money lasting a lifetime plummets. His comfortable dream is replaced by a high-stakes gamble. The plan, as it is, isn't just flawed, it's set up to fail. After a lifetime of saving, David is faced with a terrifying thought. His $1.2 million might not be nearly enough. So let's really dig into what's arguably the single biggest threat to David's plan, that 5-year healthcare gap between age 60 and 65. For anyone wanting to retire before Medicare, this is the financial challenge you have to face. Going from an employer plan to the individual market is a huge financial shock. David is healthy and assumes he'll find an affordable plan. But for a 60-year-old, the health insurance marketplace is a sober place. Premiums are based on age, location, and coverage level. For a decent silver-level plan on the ACA marketplace, a 60-year-old can easily pay anywhere from $800 to over $1,200 a month, depending on the state. Let's be conservative and say David finds a plan for $800 a month. That's $9,600 a year. Remember his initial budget of $48,000? Let's say after taxes, his take-home pay is closer to $40,000. Now, subtract that $9,600 premium. He's left with just $30,400 a year, or about $2,533 a month to cover everything else: property taxes, home insurance, utilities, food, gas, and any hope of travel or hobbies. His dream is shrinking fast. But here's where a critical strategy comes in. One that separates successful early retirees from the ones forced back to work. Mastering the Affordable Care Act, ACA subsidies. These subsidies are designed to make insurance affordable, but they're based on your modified adjusted gross income, or MAGI. If David just withdraws his $48,000 from his 401k, all of it counts as income. At that income level, he'd likely only get a small subsidy, if any, leaving him to pay that full $9,600 premium. This is the trap. But what if David can strategically lower his reported income? This is where the mix of his savings is critical. Remember, he has $1 million in a pre-tax 401k and $200,000 in a taxable brokerage account. What if, for those first 5 years, he intentionally took much less from his 401k? Say, he only takes out $25,000 from the 401k and uses his taxable account for the rest of his spending. His MAGI would drop to around $25,000. At that income level, the ACA subsidies change everything. Instead of paying $800 a month, he might now only pay $150 a month. The government subsidy covers the rest. This one strategic move could save him over $7,000 a year. That's $35,000 over 5 years. Money that stays in his portfolio, growing for his future. This strategy of managing your income isn't cheating. It's a fundamental part of modern retirement planning. It means carefully planning withdrawals from different account types, taxable, tax-deferred, and tax-free, like Roth accounts, to create the lowest possible MAGI during those pre-Medicare years. For David, this is a huge lesson. His retirement doesn't just depend on how much he has, but on where it is and how he takes it out. Understanding these rules turns a budget breaker into a manageable expense and gives his retirement plan a fighting chance. But this is just one piece of the puzzle. The second huge factor in retirement success, and one David completely overlooked, is geography. Where you live isn't just a lifestyle choice, it's one of the most powerful financial decisions you can make. The cost of living varies so much that it can single-handedly decide if $1.2 million is a fortune or barely enough to get by. Let's look at 3 scenarios for David. Assume he pulls off the healthcare strategy and has about $38,000 a year left after taxes and insurance. How far does that money really go? Scenario A, the high-cost city staying put. David has always lived in a nice suburb of a major coastal city, like San Diego or outside Boston. His friends are there, his life is there, and he's proud of his paid-off home. His first instinct is to stay put. This is the location trap. Let's break down the budget. First, that paid-off house isn't free. Property taxes could easily be $10,000 a year. Homeowner's insurance might be another $2,000. Basic maintenance could add $3,000. That's $15,000 gone before he's even bought groceries. His $38,000 is now down to $23,000. Utilities could run $500 a month or $6,000 a year. Groceries are more expensive. So let's budget $7,200 a year. Gas and car insurance are higher. Let's say another $6,000 for transportation. Let's add it up. $15,000 for the house, plus $6,000 for utilities, plus $7,200 for food, plus $6,000 for transport, equals $34,200. Out of his $38,000 budget, he has just $3,800 a year left over. That's about $316 a month for everything else. Clothes, gifts, emergencies, new tires, hobbies, travel, any of it? The single unexpected home repair would wipe him out. In this scenario, retirement isn't freedom. It's a prison of financial anxiety. He'd be house rich and cash poor. The plan fails catastrophically. Scenario B, the moderate cost suburb, the smart move. After the shock of that first scenario, David considers moving. He doesn't have to move to the middle of nowhere, just a more reasonably priced area. Think of a nice suburb in a state like Texas or North Carolina, or a mid-sized city in the Midwest. The quality of life is high, but the cost of living is much lower. Let's run the budget again with the same $38,000. Property taxes on a new, less expensive home might be just $4,000. Home insurance, $1,000. Maintenance, $2,000. His total housing costs drop from $15,000 to $7,000. That's an immediate $8,000 in annual savings. Utilities and groceries are cheaper too. Let's say his utilities are now $4,800 a year, and groceries are $6,000. Transportation costs might be similar at $6,000. The new total, $7,000 for housing, plus $4,800 for utilities, plus $6,000 for food, plus $6,000 for transport, equals $23,800. Now, out of his $38,000 budget, he has $14,200 left over. That's nearly $1,200 a month in discretionary income. This is a game changer. This is money for hobbies, travel, and a buffer for emergencies. In this scenario, retirement is not just possible, it's comfortable. He has breathing room. He can live, not just survive. Scenario C, the low-cost geo arbitrage, the power move. For the truly flexible, there's a third option, using geography to your advantage. This means relocating to a significantly lower-cost area, either in the U.S., like Alabama or Arkansas, or even internationally to countries like Portugal or Mexico. In one of these places, David's entire annual budget might only need to be $36,000. Healthcare, housing, and daily expenses could all be significantly lower. Let's go back to his initial income of $48,000 from the 4% rule. if his total living expenses are only $36,000, he now has a $12,000 surplus every year. This is the ultimate power position. This surplus can be used for travel or it can be reinvested, allowing his $1.2 million portfolio to not just survive, but actively grow during retirement. This strategy supercharges his plan and nearly eliminates the risk of running out of money. This makes one thing crystal clear. David's retirement success hinges almost entirely on his mailing address. Staying put is a recipe for disaster. Moving to a more affordable area turns a failing plan into a successful one. We've covered healthcare and location. Now we get to the third and maybe most important decision David can make: when to claim Social Security. This isn't a small choice. Over his lifetime, it can easily swing his income by hundreds of thousands of dollars. For someone like David, born after 1960, his full retirement age, FRA, is 67. Let's say his benefit at that age is a solid $2,000 a month. He has three main choices. Option 1, claim as early as possible, age 62. The moment he turns 62, David can turn on the Social Security spigot, and it's incredibly tempting. After 2 years of living only off his savings, that government check would feel like a lifeline. The upside: if he claims at 62, his benefit is permanently cut by about 30%. His $2,000 check becomes roughly $1,400 a month. This immediately reduces how much he needs to pull from his portfolio, which lessens the risk of a market downturn hurting him in those critical early years. So, that permanent reduction is the catch. If David is healthy and expects to live a long life, claiming early is a losing bet. Over a long retirement, he'll leave a massive amount of money on the table. He's essentially betting he won't live past 80. Option 2. Wait until full retirement age 67. This is the baseline, the age when he gets his full promised benefit. The upside: at 67, he gets his full $2,000 a month, or $24,000 a year, which will be adjusted for inflation for the rest of his life. It's a balanced approach. The downside: he has to fund 7 full years of retirement from 60 to 67 entirely from his $1.2 million portfolio. That's a long time. A major market crash during those years could do serious damage to his savings. Option 3. Delay until the maximum age 70. This is the strategy of maximum patience, and it gives the maximum reward. Upside: for every year David waits past age 67, the government gives him an 8% raise. By waiting until 70, his benefit grows by 24%. His $2,000 monthly check swells to about $2,480 a month. Compared to claiming at 62, his annual benefit is over 76% higher. This is like getting a guaranteed, inflation-protected super pension. For a healthy person, this is almost always the best financial move for lifetime income. The downside: this strategy takes nerves of steel. David would have to fund a full decade of retirement solely from his investments. This puts immense pressure on his $1.2 million. A bad market downturn during this window could be devastating. The Social Security decision is a classic risk versus reward scenario. Claiming early gives you immediate relief but a lower payout. Delaying offers a much richer future, but a riskier path to get there. The right choice for David is deeply personal and depends on his health, his risk tolerance, and the other strategic moves he makes. Alright, we've just laid out 3 of the most critical decisions any retiree will face. If you're finding this breakdown helpful and it's making you think, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. We release case studies like this every week to help you make the smartest choices for your own financial future. Now, let's build a real solution for David. David's initial plan was a roadmap to failure, but now, armed with a better understanding of healthcare, location, and Social Security, we can build a revised plan that works. This is where we stop finding problems and start engineering a solution. Step 1, the location reset. First, he makes the move. He executes scenario B from our location analysis. He sells his expensive home and relocates to a comfortable, moderate-cost suburb. This does two critical things. It drastically lowers his annual living expenses to a very manageable $23,800, and it could potentially add a few $100,000 from the home sale to his investment portfolio. Step 2. The healthcare hack. From age 60 to 64, he executes the ACA subsidy strategy. He works with a planner to structure his withdrawals, drawing mostly from his taxable account to keep his reported income low. This slashes his health insurance premiums from $800 a month to maybe $200, saving him thousands of dollars a year that stays invested. Step 3, the optimized Social Security decision. With his budget under control, he has more flexibility. Delaying to 70 still feels too risky, and claiming at 62 is too big of a penalty. He settles on the balanced approach, claiming his full $24,000 annual benefit at his full retirement age of 67. Step 4, the intelligent withdrawal strategy, the retirement smile. Instead of a rigid 4% rule, he adopts a more realistic spending plan that follows the retirement smile model. Go years, age 60 to 70. In his first active decade, he's healthy and wants to travel. His new budget easily covers his needs, but he decides to spend a bit more, around $55,000 a year. This is a slightly aggressive withdrawal rate, but it's manageable for a limited time in his new lower-cost location. Oh, the slow-go years, age 70 to 80. In his 70s, life naturally slows down. He travels less, and his spending drops to around $50,000 a year. But here's the key. At age 67, his $24,000 Social Security benefit starts. To get to his $50,000 spending goal, he now only needs to withdraw $26,000 from his portfolio. This drops his withdrawal rate to a super safe 2.2%. This low rate allows his portfolio to recover from the earlier years and grow, building a powerful buffer for the future. 1. The no-go years. Later in life, spending often rises again, mostly due to healthcare. But by this point, David's plan is a fortress. His portfolio has likely grown substantially, giving him more than enough capital to handle these costs without fear. When we plug this new dynamic plan into a professional financial planning tool, the results are incredible. His initial plan, which might have had a 60% chance of success, now has a 90 to 95% chance. He's turned a coin flip into a well-engineered certainty. He can now enjoy retirement with confidence. Even with the solid plan, two big wildcards remain: relentless inflation and the catastrophic cost of long-term care. First, inflation. An average inflation rate of 3% means that in 24 years, the cost of living will double. The $50,000 that affords him a comfortable life today will only have the purchasing power of $25,000 in his mid-80s. This is why the growth in his portfolio during those slow-go years is so important. His investments have to outpace the rising cost of living. The second and much bigger wild card is long-term care. This is the single greatest threat to a retiree's savings. Medicare does not cover long-term custodial care, help with daily activities like bathing and dressing, and the costs are astronomical. According to recent data, a semi-private room in a nursing home costs over $112,000 per year, and an assisted living facility can cost over $66,000. A prolonged need for this care can wipe out a $1 million portfolio with terrifying speed. So what can he do? At age 60, buying traditional long-term care insurance might be too expensive, but he can still plan for this risk by looking into hybrid life insurance policies with long-term care riders, or by setting aside a specific part of his portfolio as a long-term care fund. The key is not to ignore it. He has to have a conversation and a contingency plan for this risk. David's story is a perfect lesson for anyone dreaming of retirement. He started with a common belief that a 7-figure nest egg was a golden ticket. But his initial plan showed the harsh truth. The number in your account is only one piece of the puzzle. His dream was nearly shattered, not by a lack of savings, but by a lack of strategy. He was blindsided by taxes, the crushing cost of healthcare before Medicare, and the huge impact of his high-cost location. But his story is ultimately about empowerment. It shows that retirement success isn't just about saving money, it's about making smart, strategic decisions. By being flexible enough to move, he reset his entire cost of living. By intelligently managing his income, he navigated the pre-Medicare healthcare gap. And by making a patient Social Security decision, he secured a larger, inflation-proof income for life. He swapped a rigid, old-school rule for a flexible, dynamic plan. So, can you retire at 60 with $1.2 million? The answer is a resounding yes, but on one condition. You have to be an active participant. You have to be willing to pull the levers of location, healthcare strategy, and Social Security. You have to understand that how you manage your money in retirement is just as important as how much you saved. David's story proves that the dream of early retirement is still alive, but it requires more than just money. It requires a plan. What was the biggest surprise for you in David's retirement budget? Would you have made different choices about where to live or when to take Social Security? I want to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below. Your strategy could help someone else in this community. And if you want more deep dive case studies to build your own bulletproof retirement plan, make sure you're subscribed. Thanks for watching.